Oke, saya rasa cukup. Kita akan mulai saja langsung. Louis, you may start your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. So hello everybody and welcome along this evening. Thank you very much for joining me on this Monday evening to find out a bit more about the University of Edinburgh. So before we start the presentation, I will just introduce myself and then I will share my screen so you can see my slides. So my name is Louise Zeelenberg and I am the Regional Manager for Southeast Asia and Australasia at the University of Edinburgh. So it's my job really to travel around the region and to meet with students who are interested in applying to the university to try to answer your questions and help you with your applications. So obviously, as that's not possible in person, we are still running these information webinars online so that we can try to reach as many students as possible and try to answer any questions you have about the university or making an application to the university. So the structure of the session today is that I will present a short, maybe 30 to 40 minute presentation with some slides, and then we can move on to Q&A. I will try to answer your questions as much as possible at the end of the session. So if I can just ask that you can hold on to the questions until the presentation is finished, and then I'm more than happy to answer. So just bear with me a second while I get my slides on the screen for you. Okay, so hopefully everybody should be able to see the slides and hear me. And people from IBEC, if you can just put your mic on and just say yes so that I know you can see and everyone can see and hear.
Yep, all good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so let's get started then. So welcome along to the University of Edinburgh. So what I want to cover today is a little bit about Scotland, the country, the city of Edinburgh, the University of Edinburgh, how to apply, a bit about fees and funding, accommodation, careers, employability, and the new graduate route, and then take your question and answer. So I am aware from the sign-ups that there's a mixture of undergraduate and postgraduate students joining today. I think the majority are probably postgraduate, so I do have some slides for both undergraduate and postgraduate. So the image that you see there on the screen, this is my city. This is Edinburgh. In the background there, you can see Edinburgh Castle, and in the foreground, that is a bagpiper who stands every single day on the corner of our main street, Princes Street, playing all kinds of Scottish music on his bagpipes, and the tourists absolutely love that kind of thing. So, in case your geography about Scotland or the UK is maybe not too hot, I thought I would just give you a quick overview about exactly where we're located and a bit about Scotland. So obviously Scotland is one of the countries that make up the United Kingdom, and we are in the north of the United Kingdom. We are sitting basically on top of England. We are quite a small country, especially in comparison to Indonesia, with a population of 5.4 million. However, although we are a small country, we do have 15 universities located in Scotland, and 4 of those universities are what we refer to as the ancient universities. So you've probably heard, obviously, of Oxford and Cambridge. They are the ancient universities located in England, but here in Scotland, we are very proud that we have the University of Edinburgh, Glasgow, St Andrews and Aberdeen, all of which are regarded as very prestigious and ancient universities. In Scotland, there are around about 50,000 international students from about 180 countries. So if you were concerned about coming to Scotland thinking, oh, there might not be many other international students, many other Indonesian students, absolutely don't worry about that at all. We have a very thriving international community in all of our universities here. So there is no question that you would come and that you wouldn't meet other international students. And just one thing which is important to note as well is that Scotland does have its own government and its own parliament. So within the UK, certain powers are devolved to the different countries. So for example, the Scottish government, the Welsh government, the Northern Irish government, and then obviously we have the Westminster government in England who oversee the whole of the UK. But in Scotland, we do have devolved powers over certain areas. And one of those areas is education, which you will see in the next few slides. We have a slightly different education system to the rest of the UK. And the other area is actually in terms of dealing with the coronavirus. The governments of all 4 of the UK nations have been able to make their own decisions independently from the Westminster government. So it is a little bit confusing, especially for the students who are arriving for this intake, because some of the rules in England are slightly different to the rules in Scotland. So it's worth just noting that if you are thinking to apply for next year for 2022 entry and the coronavirus is still around, then it's definitely keeping an eye on it's definitely worth keeping an eye on the Scottish Government website as well as the UK government. Okay, so Edinburgh is the capital of Scotland, and we have a population only of about 500,000, which I know compared to Jakarta seems like absolutely tiny, but we're the second biggest city in Scotland next to Glasgow. 15% of the population of Edinburgh is actually made up of students because there are 4 universities located in the city of Edinburgh. So it's a very student-focused city. And it is usually seen as one of the most vibrant cities in Europe and one of the most desirable places to live. So that's not only in terms of students coming to study in the city of Edinburgh, but also people who are maybe at the start of their career looking to relocate to find a city that they would enjoy living in, and Edinburgh absolutely ticks the boxes. We were also voted the safest city in Britain in a government survey back in 2014, and I would say that still feels pretty current if you're coming overseas for the first time, perhaps. If your parents are maybe a little bit worried about sending you overseas, then please do be reassured about that accolade of the safest city in Britain. We are also a very historic, cosmopolitan and cultured city. As you can see from the picture there, there's a lot of historic buildings in the city of Edinburgh, and many of those buildings actually do belong to the university. So we have classes in very historical buildings in all of our campuses, to be honest. So if you're interested in history and you're interested in culture and you like to hear about stories from back maybe 100, 150 years ago, there's lots of that attached to the University of Edinburgh. So there's lots of things to find out about if you come to study here. We're also the world's first UNESCO City of Literature and a UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. So you can imagine that we do attract a high number of tourists. We are seen now as a year-round destination and a festival city. So the one thing that you might have heard about the City of Edinburgh is the Edinburgh International Fringe Festival, which is an arts festival which runs throughout the month of August. And that is a truly international festival. And our population of 500,000 enlarges to about 1.5 million in the month of August, with all the tourists coming in for the festival. We're also, I suppose, our main industries, if you like, are banking and finance, and also hospitality, tourism, and actually the National Health Service is the 3rd largest employer in the city. So healthcare, again, is another of our main industries. So the University of Edinburgh, as I said, is one of the ancient universities, founded in 1583. We are a global top 20 university. So this year in the QS World Rankings, we are 16th in the world. We're also a member of the Russell Group. Now, you might have heard of that one. That is a group of research-intensive UK universities. But we're also a member of various other different networks and partnerships as well. We're quite a large university by UK standards. So we have over 44,000 students in total. 27,000 would be undergraduate and around about 17 to 18,000 would be postgrad. And we do have over 21,000 international students from more than 160 countries. So that number that I quoted at the beginning in the slides of about 50,000 international students in Scotland, about 21,000 of those students are actually studying at the University of Edinburgh. So you can imagine the diverse student body that we have at the university. We do have quite a lot of choice when it comes to your course selection, your degree selection. So we have over 400 undergraduate courses, around about 300 top masters, and about 135 different research areas. So just to talk a little bit about research at the university. So we are pretty well known for our research at the University of Edinburgh. So we are a world-leading research institution. So we're the first in Scotland and the fourth in the UK. And the research that we have that we do at the university has global impact. So we currently have around about 1,000 international research collaborations that are active. We also have quite a long history of discovery, invention and innovation, and research at the university has been involved in all kinds of things from modern economics to sociology and the Enlightenment, geology, English lit, quantum mechanics, antiseptic surgery, and even the theory of evolution. So there's been a lot going on at the university over the past almost 500 years or so. And to note as well that around about 80% of our academic staff are currently involved or actively involved in research at the same time as their teaching commitments. And we are associated with 24 Nobel Prize winners. And just to mention the picture on the slide there, for anybody who's interested in law, that is actually our law school. So you can see what I mean about the historic buildings in the city which do belong to the university. So just to talk a little bit about the range of different postgraduate degrees at the university, pretty much we have all manner of postgraduate degrees. As I said, there's about 300 top masters and about 135 different areas for research. So we have various different taught qualifications, if you like, from the MA to the MSc, MBAs, MEd, MUs, MPhil, and the LLM in the law school. And generally speaking, the top postgraduate degrees at Edinburgh are usually 12 months of study. So most of our degrees would start the beginning of September and would finish at the end of August of the following year. So that would usually be made up of 2 10-week semesters, which would run from September to January, January to June, and then over the summer months, so July, August time, you would be finalising your dissertation. So there is usually some form of written thesis, dissertation or project at the end of the top masters. And the structure of the master's course, normally you have to do 6 to 8 different modules, usually 3 or 4 in semester 1 and the same in semester 2. And at the same time, you would be conducting research into your dissertation topic so that you would be able to write that up over the summer. And those taught modules tend to be a mix of core and optional courses. So for example, in semester 1, you might have 2 core modules that you must complete, and then you could probably choose another 1 or 2 optional subjects, and the same in semester 2. And those optional subjects can be tightly related to your major subject, or they can be a little bit further removed to give you a little bit of experience in the interdisciplinary study. And the master's programs are very specialised training, so it tends to be made up of coursework with some form of assessment to suit the circumstances. So the assessments can be different forms, if you like. So there may be a written exam, there may be a group project, there could be a presentation or some form of assessment like that. But each module will have an assessment at the end, and the assessments will be all different forms. For those of you interested in research degrees, as I mentioned, we have about 135 different research subjects or themes, if you like. The Masters of Research is a 1-year degree, the MPhil is 2, and the PhD is a minimum of 3, sometimes can be 4. In those programs, you would really manage a project in collaboration with one or more supervisors, and they tend to be quite unstructured, so it does really require you to be motivated and dedicated and to have the resilience to continue and to push yourself to complete those studies without having that structure of a timetable that you may have obviously had during your undergraduate degree. At Edinburgh, we do obviously offer access to quite strong technical, methodological and educational and social support structures. So as I said at the beginning of the presentation, we do have about 17,000 students doing postgraduate degrees. Probably less than half of those will be doing research degrees, but there is still quite a large community of students doing postgrad research. So although the subject that you're researching might be quite niche to you, and there may not be many other students following that particular focus, you would still be able to interact with other students on research degrees and have a network of support in that way. So don't feel that, oh, I'm coming and I'm researching this niche subject, there's no one else doing this, I've got no support, I've got nobody to talk to. There are support structures in place to keep our research students well connected and engaged so that you feel that you are part of something bigger. Also, obviously, the supervisors that we have are academics. In some cases, they are world-renowned experts, and working with them, working alongside them, or being tutored or mentored by them does give you a fantastic opportunity. And just to note that all of our master's degrees are internationally recognised and accredited as well. And just to mention as well, in terms of scholarships, for those of you who are perhaps considering LPDP scholarships, applying for those, I'm pleased to say that Edinburgh is on the LPDP recognised list, so you would be able to apply to us if you are in receipt of one of those scholarships. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about undergraduate degrees. So if you are searching for your bachelor's for next year or for the year after, what you may have noticed is that in Scotland, the degree structure is slightly different to the rest of the UK. Now, if you remember that back at the start of the presentation, I mentioned that the Scottish Government have powers over education. This is why we have a slightly different education system in Scotland. So in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, most bachelor's degrees will be 3 years in duration, and you pretty much focus on your specialisation from the beginning. But in Scotland, the majority of degrees are 4 years, apart from things like vet medicine, which is 5 years, or medicine at Edinburgh, which is 6. Now, why does Scotland have this 4-year structure compared to the rest of the UK? First of all, it's because our high school system is different. So in the rest of the UK, students will typically study A-levels, like many of you will be studying at international schools. But in Scotland, we don't study A-levels in high school. We study something called Scottish Highers. So that in itself is the first difference to our education system. So with Scottish Highers, we would usually do more subjects in less time. So with A-levels, you would normally do 3 subjects over 2 years, but we would normally do 5 or 6 Highers over 1 year, and then move into the 4-year degree structure. And also to mention, we do have 4 of the ancient universities located in Scotland. So traditionally, we've always offered this 4-year structure, and it fits very nicely with our school system as well. But what that means for you as a student coming into that system is that in the first 2 years of your bachelor's degree, you will have quite a lot of flexibility and a choice of subjects. So we aim to give you what we call breadth of study in the first 2 years. So for example, if you chose a subject to study like politics, normally you would be able to choose between 2 and 3 outside subjects to go alongside your major subject in year 1 and year 2. And then in year 3, you would still have choices, but it would be more closely linked to your major subject. And then in year 4, similarly, you would focus more on your major, and there would be a bit of a research element in that. So what it gives you is, in the first 2 years, the opportunity to study some subjects from different disciplines, could even be from a completely different subject area. So if you were studying politics, you might want to take a language, or you might want to take geography, or you might want to take IT. So there's not really any limitation other than the timetable limitation as to what you could take as your elective subjects. So this does show that, as I said, you get the breadth of study, and those modules are reflected on your university transcript. So employers will be able to see that you have university level university level study in different subject areas, not just in your major. So as it says on the slide there, it gives you the opportunity to sample several different subjects, and then in your 3rd year, you would go on to focus more on your major subject. And there is another thing that I want to point out, which is slightly confusing. If you are interested in an undergraduate degree in humanities and social sciences, you may have noticed from our website that we actually award you an MA in those subjects. So for example, business, international business, politics, sociology, social anthropology, international relations, all of those would be classed as humanities and social sciences. And all of those degrees, we would award you this MA, Master of Arts. Now that is still an undergraduate degree. It's not a postgraduate degree, even though it says Masters. What it refers to is that it's only the ancient or prestigious universities who are allowed to award this MA qualification for undergraduate degrees. So that would indicate to an employer, oh, this student's graduated from an ancient or a more prestigious university. So it's definitely a good thing to choose a course where you would be able to get an MA, and it will be an MA Hons as well, will be your final qualification. But just to clarify, it's only for humanities and social sciences. So for example, if you chose to do engineering, that would be BSc or BEng. And if you choose to do art and design, that would still be BA Hons, because that comes under arts, not under humanities and social sciences. But if you're looking on our degree finder and you see that MA and you're thinking, what on earth is this? That's what it is. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about the structure of the university. So this applies to undergraduate and postgraduate. We are split into 3 different colleges, and the largest college is the College of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, and that has about 26,000 students. And of that, it's further split down into 12 schools. I would say for international students, the most popular schools, obviously business school, super popular at undergraduate and at postgraduate level. Economics also very popular, particularly at undergraduate level. Edinburgh College of Art is where we offer all of our art and design programs, and we have some quite niche programs in there as well. Other one to mention is law. Now, let me just point out, if you're interested in undergraduate law, it's Scots law that we offer at the University of Edinburgh. So Scots law would only really be practical if you want to continue and stay on and work in Scotland, because it's even different to English law. So just bear that in mind. But if you're looking for a postgraduate qualification in law, our LLMs are all international focus LLMs. So you don't need to worry about that Scots law thing if you're studying at postgraduate level. Obviously, psychology is another popular one at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. And the other one that I will highlight in there is international relations, which is also probably in our top 5 most popular courses, certainly at undergraduate level. So that's the College of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. And just to mention as well that when you apply to the University of Edinburgh, we don't have one central admissions team. So each college has their own admissions team. So if you apply to the College of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, the application will be handled by that college admissions team. Okay, next college is the College of Medicine and Vet Medicine. So this is where we have our undergraduate vet degree, medicine degree, and we also have various biomedical sciences, clinical sciences, and some postgraduate specialisms within a medical science field as well. We don't offer dentistry at the University of Edinburgh undergraduate level, but we do have some master's specialisations in dental with dental focus. So we have just two schools there. That's the medical school and the vet school. Obviously, students who are considering undergraduate degrees in medicine, just to let you know that for this year's entry, we have 19, that's 19 spots for international students. And for vet studies, for the undergraduate veterinary degree, we have about 35 spots for international students. So they are pretty competitive courses, obviously medicine even more so. I'm happy to answer any questions on medicine at the end, but there's also quite a lot of very useful information on our medical school website about making applications and what we look for in the application. So it's worth having a look on there if you're considering medicine. Okay, and the third college, which is the middle-sized college, is the College of Science and Engineering. And that has about 9,000 students. And the College of Science and Engineering has its own campus, which is called King's Buildings, and we have our 9,000 students all studying anything within science or engineering. You would be located at the King's Buildings campus. Now, this college has 7 schools, and I can tell you that there is one school in particular which has way more applications than any other, and that's the School of Informatics. So this is at undergraduate and at postgraduate level, super, super popular. Our courses in computer science, artificial intelligence, data science, all of those courses are very, very highly subscribed and very competitive. So I would say that if you are considering applying for any of those courses, do have a look at the course information, the entry requirements on our website, because there are quite some very specific requirements, especially at master's level for those programs, in terms of what we are looking for in your bachelor's degree, various different elements that we will search for. So if you're applying for informatics, you need to be super, super patient, because although you can apply in November, sometimes the offers don't even go out until March, because it takes so long to do the shortlisting because of the number of very, very high quality applications. Also within the college, popular subjects would obviously be engineering and maths as well, and physics probably would be the other popular areas there. Okay, so how to apply? So starting with our postgraduate students, so you can really apply in 2 ways. The first way is through our representatives who are with us today, IBEC. If you would like some support with your application and you would like some support particularly with the visa application, IBEC are our only representatives in Indonesia, so they would be able to assist you with that. Otherwise, you can apply online, whereby you would just go to the course on the degree finder, and then, as you can see on the screen there, down the side of the page where the course information is, you can click an apply button, and that will take you through to an online application form. And whatever way you choose to apply, we are looking for the following. So for postgraduate, we're looking for your academic and your English language qualifications. So that would be your bachelor's degree, certificate, transcript, IELTS certificate, if you have it at that point. Also a personal statement. So that's like a focused essay, a reference. Anything that needs to be translated would need to be certified. And then for those of you who are considering a research program, we need to see a research proposal. So I just want to stop for a moment and talk about the different applications for research programs as opposed to top masters. So if you're applying for top masters or even the MRes, the 1 year, you just make an application online, as you can see on the screen. If you're applying for PhD, what we advise you to do is, first of all, to have a look through the biographies of the academics in your particular subject area online. Once you have identified one or possibly two academics that you feel could potentially support you to supervise you, then we recommend that you contact them directly by email with an outline of the proposal that you intend to research, and they will then be able to get back to you and confirm, first of all, do they have the expertise to supervise you, and secondly, do they have the capacity to supervise you depending on the number of students that they are currently supervising. So the application for the PhD is slightly different in that it doesn't go through a central applications admission office, if you like. It goes first of all to the potential supervisor, who would then come back and confirm to you, and then the dialogue would continue on from there. For our undergraduate applications, must be through UCAS. We don't accept any other form of undergraduate application. I'm sure most of you who are on this session, if you're undergraduate, you are pretty familiar with UCAS, or you're probably at an international school who has a school counsellor who will help you with that. Just to note, for those of you interested in medicine or vet medicine, the deadline is the 15th of October, so you've still got a couple of weeks if you're planning to apply for next year. Otherwise, we ask, if possible, that you make your application by the end of January, because some of our undergraduate courses will close at the end of January because of the number of applications that we receive. So the popular courses, so usually courses in business, economics, and informatics, we would close those applications at the end of January. So although technically the UCAS deadline for international students is the end of June, don't leave it until then, because you may miss out and some of the courses may already be closed. So obviously UCAS, you fill in the online application form, put in your predicted grades, you write your personal statement, and then you ask somebody at your school to provide you with an academic reference. In terms of the qualifications that we require, we do have that on our website. So the entry requirements from Indonesia, just to mention that we do not accept the Indonesian high school certificate. So you would need to have something additional. So if you're not doing A-levels or you're not doing IB, then we would accept the USAP, for example. We used to accept the SATs, but now the subject tests have been withdrawn. So really, the only other options would be APs or the American ACT, if that's accessible to you. For postgraduates, again, our requirements are on our website. Generally speaking, for a postgraduate degree, we're looking for a bachelor's degree with a GPA of 3.2 or above out of 4. It is quite likely that you'll require an IELTS test, and that does depend on the subject area. But generally speaking, for the sciences, we're looking for a 6.5 or above, and for humanities, it would be a 7.0 and above. And then there's a link there just to our representatives in Indonesia. But as I mentioned, IBEC are in the session with us, and they are our only representative. Okay, fees and funding. So the fees for 2022 entry have not yet been set, but the 2021 fees are all online, so you can have a look there to see roughly what you would expect your fee to be for next year. The cost of living is reasonably cheap in Edinburgh compared to the rest of the UK. So we usually say about £1,000 a month will cover everything. That will cover your room and halls if you choose to stay in student accommodation. It will cover food costs. It would cover any travel costs and just general living costs. Obviously, it does depend on your standard of living. Some people may be slightly more extravagant than others, but that is just a ballpark figure. In terms of scholarships, so first of all, just to say that we, as I mentioned, we are, if you're applying for an external scholarship from outside of the University of Edinburgh, we do receive Chevening Scholars, we do receive LPDP Scholars, and various other international scholarships. But internally, the scholarships that we have at the University of Edinburgh are pretty limited, if I'm honest. Most of them are for postgraduate study. And most of them would just be a contribution towards your tuition fee. So we don't have any full scholarships. They would just be a discount on the tuition fee. They're awarded based on academic merit, and most of them have early deadlines. So typically, I mean, the earliest deadline I've seen would be the end of February of the year that you intend to start studying. Some may have a slightly later deadline, for example, the end of May, but you need to have already applied and have an offer and then be able to apply for the scholarship. There is a page on our website where you can do a search for various different scholarships, and it just depends on where you're coming from and also what course you're studying and what level you're studying. So you can put that information into the search and that will bring up any available scholarships. Now, just a little note about accommodation costs while we're talking about the cost of living. So depends on the accommodation that you choose. So if you're undergraduate, we have two options. We have the catered option, which is about 5,000, 5,500 up to 7,500 per year. And that covers everything. So that's all your bills like your Wi-Fi, your internet connection, electricity, etc., is all covered. If you, and sorry, catered obviously includes meals. So catered would be 7 breakfasts and 7 dinners through the week. So lunch obviously is not provided because you would be at university and you'd be able to go to one of the cafeterias in the university. If you don't want to take the catered option, we have the self-catered option, which is considerably cheaper, as you can see there, about 2,500 up to 6,500, and that's based on a year. And again, there are twin rooms available or single rooms available. And the tenancy runs from the beginning of September. So our welcome week usually starts around the 10th of September. And that weekend is normally our key arrivals weekend. And for undergraduate students, your academic year is actually only 38 weeks. So you would start with us in September, and by the end of May, you would have finished your studies for the year. So the accommodation tenancy does include Christmas and Easter holidays, but would end at the end of May when your undergraduate classes will finish. And as I mentioned, the rent includes everything. So there's no additional costs on top of what you see on the screen. And just to say, the majority of students do take the halls option for the first year because it is guaranteed for international students for the first year of study. And then after that, it's not guaranteed for second year onwards, but the majority of students just live in private accommodation, either with people that they've met in the accommodation in first year or people that they've met on the course. And Edinburgh is a city where it's pretty easy to find student accommodation. It's not one of these cities where you go to view a flat and you have to queue up and there's like 10 other people in front of you. It's not like that at all. It's fairly straightforward. And through various different networks in the university, flats become available. Students who are leaving after fourth year, flats become available, and that information is circulated around by our student union. For postgraduates, so your academic year, for a postgraduate, your academic year is 51 weeks. So your lease is for 51 weeks and the prices are on the page there. We don't offer catered options for postgraduate. It's all self-catered, and it's either in a residence style accommodation where you might have a room in a residence block, or it could be in flats where you would have a bedroom in a flat sharing with maybe 3 or 4 other students. Everybody would have their own bedroom, but you would have shared kitchen, bathroom facilities. So that would be a 51-week lease, and again, the rent includes everything, so there isn't any additional costs on top of what you see on the slide there. Just to talk a little bit now about careers and employability. So the University of Edinburgh is top 50 in the graduate employability rankings, and we do have quite an active careers service at the university. So whether you're coming for undergraduate study or for master's study, obviously if you're coming for master's, you're probably only there for a year. And if your plan is to stay back in the UK or or even internationally, we do recommend that you get in contact with our careers service early on, because they have some absolutely wonderful advice, and it's quite a big, robust career service. We have about 50 staff working there who will be able to help you with various different things. So from CV writing to interview techniques, practice interviews, they have careers fairs, employers come onto campus to look for to interview graduates or students who are about to graduate. And they can also help you with international job searches, because we realise not every student wants to stay in Scotland. Obviously, a lot of students want to work internationally, and they will be able to help you with all of those things. They'll also be able to help you if you're looking just for part-time work while you're studying, because if you're on a student visa, you can work 20 hours per week. And they will also be able to help with things like placements or internships or things like that. And most of this information you can access online. They have something called My Career Hub, whereby you can find all of that information, but you can also go and see them in person because they are located in the library. And just lastly, I wanted to flag up, for those of you who are not aware, the UK has now introduced a post-study work visa, which is available to any student who successfully graduates from a UK university. You would be able to apply for a 2-year stay back in the UK visa, or 3 years if you're doing a PhD, and you do not need to have a job offer first. So this is different to what we used to have before. You can now, on graduation, apply for a post-study work visa, and you will be granted 2 years or 3 from the outset, and you don't need to supply any job offer letter from a potential employer. So if you're thinking about coming for 1 year for masters, maybe you should actually think, well, this 1 year masters could actually turn into 3-year opportunity, whereby you would study for 1 year and then work for 2 years. And it's also useful as well if you're thinking to make up money that you've spent on tuition fees. You might be able to do that through this scheme, and also just to get some international work experience. So, you know, when you're planning your studies, whether it is undergraduate or whether it is at master's level, do give some consideration to this, because it's a great opportunity and it's only been introduced this year. So there will be lots of opportunities for students. And I can tell you that since we left the EU, there are so many job opportunities currently in the UK, because many EU residents who were living here have now gone back to the EU to work. So there are certainly lots and lots of gaps and opportunities here in the UK just now. Okay, so just nearing the end now, I just wanted to say I didn't really talk that much about COVID, because we all know it's having a huge impact, and you shouldn't let that necessarily influence your decision about where you might choose to study. The universities are dealing with that, and hopefully next year, or certainly in future years, things will be a lot more stable and a lot more back to normal. Just to mention that currently Edinburgh University, we had our Freshers Week started on the 13th of September. Lots of international students have arrived, and we are working in a kind of hybrid way this year, whereby we have about 70% of our classes in person and the remaining 30% online. So any large-scale lectures where we would have typically 200, 250 students in one lecture theatre, those are being delivered online at the moment, so that students are not all crushed in, because we're still trying to observe social distancing. But certainly smaller classes like seminars and tutorials are going ahead in person. And we do realise the challenge to arrive here in person, but as I said, hopefully for those of you who are thinking to come next year or the year after, that should be resolved hopefully by then. Okay, so just on there's a couple of links. Just there is a COVID update on our university webpage, and there is also a team on hand to answer any inquiries you have, and they are the Future Students team, and the email address is there, futurestudents@ed.ac.uk. So that's the end of the presentation. What I will do now is, seeing as I can't see any of you or any questions, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and then hopefully we can now move on to the Q&A.